Welcome back to Grim Advice with Gretta Myers. You've entered the grimoire. Let's turn the page together. Alright, we've got, this one is apparently broken up into two little stories, so I'm excited. It's called The Wedding of Mrs. Fox. First story. There was once an old fox with 9 tails who believed that his wife was not faithful to him and wished to test her. He stretched himself out under the bench, did not move a limb, and behaved as if he were stone dead. Mrs. Fox went up to her room, shut herself in, and her maid, Miss Cat, sat by the fire and did the cooking. When it became known that the old fox was dead, wooers presented themselves. The maid heard someone standing at the door, knocking. She went and opened it, and it was a young fox who said, What may you be about, Miss Cat? Do you sleep or do you wake? She answered, I am not sleeping, I am waking. Would you know what I am making? I am boiling warm beer with butter so nice. Will the gentleman enter and drink some likewise? No, thank you, miss, said the fox. What is Mrs. Fox doing? The maid replied, She sits all alone and makes her moan, weeping her little eyes quite red, because old Mr. Fox is dead. Do just tell her, miss, that a young fox is here who would like to woo her. Certainly, young sir. The cat goes up the stairs, trip-trap. The door she knocks at, tap, tap, tap. Mistress Fox, are you inside? Oh, yes, my little cat, she cried. A wooer, he stands at the door out there. Tell me what he's like, my dear. But has he 9 tails as beautiful as the late Mr. Fox? Oh, no, answered the cat. He has only one. Then I will not have him. Miss Cat went downstairs and sent the wooer away. Soon afterwards there was another knock, and another fox was at the door who wished to woo Mrs. Fox. He had 2 tails, but he did not fare better than the first. After this still more came, each with 1 more tail than the other, but they were all turned away, until at last one came who had 9 tails, like old Mr. Fox. When the widow heard that, she said joyfully to the cat, Now open the gates and doors all wide, and carry old Mr. Fox outside. But just as the wedding was going to be solemnized, old Mr. Fox stirred under the bench, and cudgeled all the rabble, and drove them and Mrs. Fox out of the house. Second story. When old Mr. Fox was dead, the wolf came as a wooer, and knocked at the door, and the cat, who was a servant to Mrs. Fox, opened it for him. The wolf greeted her and said, Good day, Mrs. Cat of Crit. How comes it that alone you sit? What are you making that's good? The cat replied, In milk I'm making bread so sweet. Will the gentleman please come in and eat? No, thank you, Mrs. Cat, answered the wolf. Is Mrs. Fox not at home? The cat said, She sits upstairs in her room, bewailing her sorrowful doom, bewailing her trouble so sore, for old Mr. Fox is no more. The wolf answered, If she's in want of a husband now, then will it please her to step below? The cat runs quickly up the stair, and lets her tail fly here and there, until she comes to the parlor door, with her 5 gold rings. At the door she knocks. Are you within, good Mistress Fox? If you're in want of a husband now, then will it please you to step below? Mrs. Fox asked, Has the gentleman red stockings on, and has he a pointed mouth? No, answered the cat. Then he won't do for me. When the wolf was gone, came a dog, a stag, a hare, a bear, a lion, and all the beasts of the forest, one after the other. But one of the good points which old Mr. Fox had possessed was always lacking, and the cat had continually to send the wooers away. At length came a young fox. Then Mrs. Fox said, Has the gentleman red stockings on, and has he a little pointed mouth? Yes, said the cat, he has. Then let him come upstairs, said Mrs. Fox, and ordered the servant to prepare the wedding feast. Sweep me the room as clean as you can. Up with the window, fling out my old man, for many a fine fat mouse he brought, yet of his wife he never thought, but ate up everyone he caught. Then the wedding was solemnized with young Mr. Fox, and there was much rejoicing and dancing, and if they have not left off, they are dancing still. Alright, that's a little bit of a weird one. What do I got for you today? First off, I apologize for the rant that's about to ensue. I hate in poems. I like poems. I like poetry. I like saying things fast. I have a couple memorized that I like to do at functions to show off sometimes, because that's something that people do. They have certain talents. And that's one of mine. However, it really, 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 really bugs me when it, you look at it and you're like, oh, that should rhyme, like now and below, probably because of how English has changed, so it's our own fault. bugs me. Like, it happens a lot in Shakespeare. Like, he'll have this, like, sonnet or whatever, and, like, then it'll, like, look, it's an I rhyme, I think is what it's called, and then you say it out loud, and you're like, that's not even close, and it just trips you up, and I hate it. So, if you're writing poetry, either don't go for rhyming, or you gotta go all in, or people are gonna be bugged. Like me. I get it, like, sleigh rhymes, I get trying, but, like, I rhymes bug me, like, to no end. Okay, this is giving me some time to think about what I want to say about the actual story, and not just rant about I rhymes and how they're the worst. First, let's start with the second story. I really like that she knows what she wants. She's like, well, I want these specific things. However, that she turned down a lot of people in return. So on the one hand, it's really good to know what you want so that you know what you want and you don't, like, end up with something you don't want because you don't know what you want. Like you don't know what you're looking for in a friend or a spouse or companion, dog. And so you're like, sure, I'll go with the first one or whatever. I don't care, and then you end up, like, really not liking it. So on the one hand, that's good. On the other hand, if it's just really shallow, like, you're like, I will not marry anyone who doesn't have green eyes. I will not be friends with anyone who doesn't laugh at my jokes. Okay, the jokes one is a little different. Like you want to feel appreciated. However, if you're telling jokes that people don't like, they're, like, mean jokes, maybe you should, like, look at that, like, if it keeps happening, like, you know? Okay, but if it's like, I will not marry or look at anyone who doesn't have green eyes, then you're turning down a lot of, like, really, really good people who could actually probably make you happy. Secondly, this bugs me. The first story really bugged me. For one specific reason. In relationships, it's important to, like, make sure that you're still on the same page and in a good place. Calling it a test, though, and setting it up a certain way that's not really fair. That's not really fair, because you're like, here are my parameters, you must reach this level, and, like, and then you don't tell them the parameters, like, what they're trying for. That's a little stilted. Yeah, and like, he didn't communicate with her. Communication is key in any relationship, and he sat there and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, like, throw out this elaborate test and pretend I'm dead. Talk about trust issues. Talk about trust issues after that, if she actually is faithful to you, which, getting there in a second. You know, and then he springs up, is like, just kidding, I wasn't dead the whole time, I was just testing you because I thought you were cheating on me. She's like, that's not cool. Secondly, like, she turned down several foxes that wanted to woo her, until one who, like, had the same qualities as her husband shows up, and she's like, well, because it's like the husband I loved so much, I will do it. Communication, people. And don't, like, test people. Like, if they don't text me today, I'm gonna block them and never talk to them again. Really? That's not cool. Just be like, hey, are we good, man? Like, we don't have, like, just like, communicate instead of being petty. And I know when I'm in a bad mood, sometimes I'll be like, nobody likes me, and I'm gonna prove it, because nobody's gonna talk to me today. Knowing fair well that on that day, like, people are specifically busy, so I'm, like, self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'm like, see, nobody likes me. I think that's just something some people do when they're in a bad mood. I've done it before, so I'm telling myself, as much as anyone watching, don't do it. It doesn't end well. Nobody leaves happy. Really, just don't do it. Alright, so with that, we've reached the happily ever after of this episode. Or not so happily ever after. That's up for you to decide, and what you decide is valid. This was a very weird story. Not gonna lie. 2 stories, actually. 2 little snippet stories. So, yeah. Yeah. And I probably left some stuff out. Anyways, this is the end for the episode, so tune in later and we can learn more and turn a new page together.